I don't know where everyone is. This is the smallest group we've had. So maybe it's Kev's fault. Yeah. Because we've had colder nights and we were here on winter solstice and it was freezing and it was 35 people. I don't know what's going on. So, welcome everybody to Open Mic Night number 47. Woohoo! So, everybody knows me, I think. Met everybody now. My name is Blaise. I'm co-owner of Busybird. Les is part of the Busybird team. We've got a ring-in tonight. This is Paul on camera. And Oscar is wandering around looking for scraps. He's the usher. He's the usher. Yeah. So, as those of you who have been here before, we are video recording. It's not really video, recording everything, and it will go up on YouTube. So if you don't want to be on YouTube, please tell us. So we have 5 minutes each to read, or whatever you're going to do. And I'm going to mix it up a bit. I want to start by, I should have brought a copy of your book up, Noni. Oh. But you will see on your seat there's an invitation to launch. That's here on the 7th of September. That's for Nandita's book. Nandita's hiding up the back there. So that will be a really good launch. Do we want to reveal the cover?
Yes, good.
Yes.
Yeah, why not?
2 seconds.
It's beautiful.
Ah, thanks, Liz. Ta-da! Ta-da!
Oh, wow.
So this is it's little hardback novella, hardcover novella. So that will be launched on the 7th. So open to anyone here who wants to come. But let us know for catering, please, because we're expecting about 80 people, roughly, or 100. We send out lots of invitations. What else? Our Creative Fellowship opens next month. So any writers are eligible, so long as you haven't had lots of publications. And it is a year of mentorship with the Busybird team, as well as $500 cash you don't have to tell us what you want to use it for. We would hope you would put it towards your writing, but you don't have to. You can go and spell that on grog if you want. That might help the writing, or may not. So, there's just a $10 admin fee for that, but there are some registration forms up there. What else? Lots of things here. We have our, all of the rest of the year's workshops are up on the table, and our special twice yearly writing retreat is on in October, if anyone's interested in coming to that. So we have 5 minutes each. Les is going to be the timer.
Lillian's also going to read.
Lillian's going to read, yep, cool. Les will ring the bell at 4.5 minutes, and then he will do it twice at 5 minutes. So you don't have to stop mid-sentence, you can finish your sentence, or if you're near the end of a paragraph, you can finish there. So we just ask that you do sort of wrap up whatever you're doing around the 5 minute mark. We don't have as many readers as normal, so we're not going to be, well, I don't know, I don't know what sort of mood Les is in, so we'll see. Okay, I'm going to start with Ross Macdonald. Where's Ross? Oh, here in front of me. Ross is going to, I'm not sure really what Ross is going to do, so I'll let you explain to the group. Come on.
Yes, thank you. My first time here actually, so I don't know what to expect. Yeah, perhaps it's a little different what I'm going to say. I've been asked, I think, to give a speech to this little club that I'm a member of. It's called the FEXXX, and if you know your chemistry, Fe is a symbol for iron, and XXX is 30 years. So it's composed of 30 years service of retirees and ex-employees at BHP. So that's you tonight. You're the employees, and I'm giving this little address. So 5-minute address. So I just wanted to see if I'm on the right track. So I really would appreciate your feedback. So I'll just give you a taste of it, because this speech will go for 25 minutes or something in the real event. But I'll just see if the introduction, a little bit in the middle, and conclusion's about right. Yeah. So rather than read it, I'll just sort of ad-lib it a bit. Yeah, so my name's Macdonald, and in 1980 I was having lunch in the BHP cafeteria in the dungeon at 140 William Street, and in walked these well-dressed, grey-headed men. And I asked the chap next to me who they were, and he said, these chaps are ex-employees, and he said they've made a significant contribution to the company's success, and they're being briefed by management because they're regarded as very important stakeholders. So that was an introduction there in 1980. I then go on to give a little bit of background when I joined BHP, and that I've been in Canberra for 8 years, and then I had 4 years in Paris, and I came back to Canberra, and I was interviewed for the BHP job because I'd just finished a report on the aluminium industry, and BHP was about to enter the aluminium industry. So then I go on to talk about some memorable moments in my career, and very early on in the company I could see that the company had a mania for punctuality, accuracy and tidiness, and that was set by their managing director in the 1940s and 1950s. His name was Essington Lewis, and he was touring, there's many stories about him, but one was he was touring the Newcastle Steelworks, and he asked a manager about a fairly urgent project to fix something, and the manager said it'd be ready by Christmas, and Essington Lewis said, this year Christmas falls in October. So that was the type of guy he was. But then I go on to, some of the anecdotes and memories in the company. I won't go through all those because they're very specific to all you people that have had 30 years service in the company. And the company was very good on training. At certain times we had a psychologist, Wolf Jarvis, who played Bolero. I don't know if you know the tune by the French composer Ravel, and and he recommended we'd shut our eyes and listen to Bolero as it get louder and louder. You know the tune, get some more pieces of the orchestra come in, and and then we'd go home after these courses and we'd be really wound up and sort of talk to our partners or our wives, who were really, sorry about that. That's a black mark. Just a black mark.
This can't happen on the day.
That's good feedback you're going to give me on it.
Leave it at home.
Yeah. Then I go on to say, look, there's lots of characters in the company, and one like to entertain, and he had a revolving door, and he'd entertain. My turn was one day, and I could see that it was going to lead into trouble because he had 3 bottles of wine, and there was 4 people, and I got back to work at 3 p.m. and my 2 bosses, general managers, just after I'd gone into my office, came into my office and wanted to talk to me about a major job. And what I did, I feigned silence in case I breathed alcoholic vapours over them. And they thought I was, very agreeable because I just nodded. I didn't say anything to them, so look, there's some of the anecdotes. I suppose winding up a conclusion, little did I know that in 1980, when I told that story, that 40 years later I would repeat, and here I'll be talking to all you retirees and ex-employees, and it's very good that we can carry the torch and keep the flame alive. Thank you.
Patrick. Where's Patrick sitting? Oh, there you are. Patrick is going to read some poems. I think poems?
Poems, yeah.
Yes. Come on. Up.
Good evening, my name is Patrick, and like Ross, my first time here as well. I've been threatening to come here for years, for 18 months. I found an excuse not to come, and so here I am tonight. I'd like to read 2 poems. Got one capsule. First one is called The Village Beyond Devil's Lair. Raven perched atop the church bell tower, but never did strike 1/4 The village crier rang out many times his bell, for all to gather round to hear the news he had to tell. The body of Romano Mackenzie-Adair was found in a hollow known to all as Devil's Lair. She stood on the balcony of the village inn, Julietta, the daughter of the landlord Phil Quinn, amused by the commotion down in the village square, unconcernedly combing her long flowing hair. Julietta's eyes were soon awash with tears when the news being told came bluntly to her ears. Her lover Romano, whose life had been cut down, once found comfort in the arms of her rival, Molly Brown. Molly's idiot brother, known as Hunchback Fred, ran like a mad dog cheering wildly about Romano being dead. Someone among them had done the foul deed, and must have been that Hunchback Fred, the power to be all agreed. Now the village folk, they were wild with fury. They took it upon themselves to be judge and jury. They carted Fred out to the gallows tree, and a pig cart for the dead cat for company. A butterfly fluttered around and rested upon his head as he danced the Tyburn jig until he was dead. Raven perched atop the church bell tower, eerily rang out 1/4. Now in a tavern many miles away, for in that village she could no longer stay, Julietta, the daughter of the landlord Quinn, sits at a table sobbing over tankards of gin. She would tell any stranger who was listening with care, stay away from the village beyond the hollow known as Devil's Lair. Now legend had it told that one who once dwelled there was none other than himself, the mad druid Red O'Hare, who manifested himself on a full moon, wild holy night, to a young lad who had died a most hideous death of fright. This was called Sometimes. Sometimes I stand alone, absorbed in my own silence, and listen to hear your voice within me. Sometimes I stand at the doorway. I see you in the room. It is only the shadow of a garment left hanging that I see. Sometimes a muchness of your body drifts through my senses. Was that you that passed by here in my dream? Sometimes silence cries in agony the loneliness of my heart. Will you hear my heart scream if you listen with your soul? Sometimes in silence your voice whispers to my heart, embrace the ambience of your memory, a shadow to my eye.
Very good.
Thanks, Patrick. Perfectly timed too. Richard, who's Richard sitting? Richard. What was that? Richard's going to read a song. Are you going to sing a song?
No, I'm
You're
not going to
sing
sing a song. I wouldn't do that to you.
He's going to dance.
As I said, I wouldn't do that to you. Nevertheless, this was written a long time ago, and it was written as a song, and it's been recorded, and it sounds pretty good, but I didn't sing it. But some songs you probably know sort of stand up as poetry, and a lot of them don't. But yeah, some songs the music stands up as music by itself. A couple of examples of Amazing Grace and The Rose, and the lyrics stand up as poetry and the music stands up as music. I'm not going to compare this to either of those, but I wish this had made as much money as they did. Anyway, it's called Amanda. Her name was just Amanda, for she never told me more, and I suppose I didn't really need to know. She was haughty, proud and distant, didn't care what people thought. To the men who came to court her, she said no. It was said I was a lover, it was said I knew her well, and it's true I knew her well enough to know that no one could really know her, that she gave none of herself, for she'd lost herself to love once long ago. She was perfection, was Amanda. She made men turn in the street. She was elegance and grace, and she had style. But Amanda's heart was lonely, and her eyes seemed far away, and 'twas seldom that the world would see her smile. She was wounded, was Amanda, though a vision to the eye, but it's inner wounds that time takes long to mend. For her heart she'd given freely to someone who didn't care, and I was glad to merely be her friend. And one day I hope Amanda will come back into the world and then let herself find happiness anew. For we're all sometimes, Amanda, give ourselves complete to love, and we find that letting go's so hard to do. Her name was just Amanda. It was said I knew her well, and it's true I knew her well enough to know that no one could really know her, that she gave none of herself, for she'd lost herself to love once long ago. And now for something completely different. This is called While Love Remains, and I haven't got enough time up Les's sleeve. Anyway, While Love Remains. We are never apart as long as I have memories of you and you of me. We are never apart as long as we can recall the things we shared. For as long as our memories endure and we care, the bond will remain. We shall never be apart, for as long as memories shared are cherished by us both. Though land and water may separate us, they cannot separate our hearts. For the earth extends from where I am to where you are, and it is the same earth. I can touch it where I am, and you where you are, and the earth will link our touch. I can look at the moon and know that you are looking at the same moon. I can drift through time and know it is the same time I drift through with you. We shall never be apart, for as long as love remains, we shall never be alone.
Richard's book is here for sale if you want to buy one. Richard, have you got any copies of the original book left, or are they sold out?
This one?
Yeah.
I've got some, not very many.
Okay. Do you carry them around with you? They're at home.
Not many.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't get a lot of demand. I don't
No.
have people rushing up to me in the street very often.
No, but some people might want to buy the two
Yeah.
together, that's all. All
This can
right.
be arranged.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joan.
Come on.
Joan, she'll
Put us up together, Joe.
Joan is going to give us some wisdom. She's going to read a poem called Wisdom.
Now this poem came about because my grandson was being married, and he was marrying a lass whose family were Sikh, and he rang me up from Switzerland and said, "Nana, can you read something at our wedding, and could it be one of your poems?" And I really struggled about what would be suitable to branch the various understandings and beliefs from the families. And I started delving into ancient scripts and discovered that one definition of wisdom is that, now what do I think? The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And this is what I decided to delve out from these scripts. Wisdom, from out eternity she comes and spans each age, inviting humble souls to pilgrimage. With reverential awe she ventures forth. No priceless gem can ever match her worth. Her promise is of endless wealth untold, more precious still than silver or of gold. With peacock flourish she flaunts not her wares. From deep within she prudent counsel shares. But some pass by as wisdom spreads her light. They find their days lost in confusion's night. For on this journey, and fools succumb to folly's tempting voice, for on this journey each one has a choice. As tired travellers plod their weary course, she comes beside with every fresh resource. They find discernment, knowledge is their fuel, with poise, tranquility, each promised jewel. The humble soul she quickens and redeems, above, beyond their heart's desires or dreams. She'll gently clasp the hand of willing souls and lead them to the wonder of her goals.
Robin, have you got wisdom for us tonight?
No singing, no. There won't be dancing.
But have you got wisdom?
No.
Oh.
I have trouble with wisdom.
Some observations I made at the local shopping centre. I like that, exclaims the French lady, referring to my bright shirt, as I enter the patisserie at the local shops. I'm sure over time the small group of stores has many stories of their own, like the girl at the small supermarket, who knows the little old lady who walks a kilometre every day, come rain or shine, pushing her jeep to collect provisions. According to the girl, the old lady also does her laundry every day. Bob, with a bushy white beard, a retired South Australian postman, who takes coffee in the same seat every morning at the quaint coffee shop. He greets me with, "Hello, Robert." Although my name is Robin, don't have the heart to tell him and the barista I'm not a Robert. The girls at the post office, who chat about menus, what's for dinner, and their footballer sons. The op shop ladies, who almost hug me when I drop off more of my unwanted treasures. I'm sure if I continue to scratch the surface, more interesting characters and stories will emerge. I'm off to explore a little more. Certainly beats shopping online. You've heard this before, so scream and throw me off the stage if you don't want to hear it again, but I rather like it. Life of Brian. Wretched, wet, cold afternoon, trees dripping constantly as I blinked in dazed fashion into that dark, muddy grave at my feet. Of course, it's too late now to offer up apologies in a futile attempt to undo my foolish act of mistakenly serving Brian the cat food. He told me many times not to confuse the assortment of cans under the sink. Now he's gone, but I still have Poogie.
Eating cat food won't kill you, will it? I can remember my brothers eating dog food as a dare. Paul.
Me?
Yes.
Who,
Paul.
me?
Yes, you. Paul is going to read some poetry.
Really good. I know. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. They're more like writing exercises actually. Some of them more polished and some of them less polished. I'm only going to do new stuff from now on. I'm bored. I run a writing group at Donna, which is like a drug rehab. It's for people who've graduated from the program. Anyway, so I'm just going to read pieces that because when we do the exercises in class, I do it as well. So here we go. I'll just read it. You'll understand. Beige, rain-washed bricks. More 70s house than hospital, but I'm lost inside just the same. Trolleys of stainless steel and perpetual carpet. Everything feels banal. Ceiling so low, all the nurses are flat on top of their heads. My mum is in one of these rooms. She has tubes coming in and out of every hole. They made a few new holes too. I know she's had morphine because she tells me she loves me. I'm glad all the rooms look the same, and the halls, and the nurses in their stiff blue uniforms. We're nothing special, living in a labyrinth. We're really all the same. This one's based it's another exercise based on a Lawrence Verne and Getty poem called Autobiography. So autobiography, it's very famous. I'm 18 years old. Actually, I'm 100. In my spare time, I like to argue with my girlfriend. I'm the last cigarette in the packet these days. I wash dishes, asleep by midnight, up again, shave. I prefer to avoid humans, but I go insane if I do, so I show up again the next day like leftovers. Sometimes I think I've seen all there is to see and know all that I want to know, but then my girlfriend explains to me exactly how I'm full of shit, and I have to admit she's probably onto something. I have shelves of books offering sage advice. Can't bring myself to read a word. I'm happiest on my feet. I like waterbirds, ducks, geese. I eat a spinach roll. I laugh during sex. I am and I continue, away from conception. And I can't stop pushing. I'm giving birth to myself. This one, they're all short, so the bell will be perfectly fine.
I'll come to you.
Yeah.
This one was an ill-advised night out with my parents, trivia night. Panton Hill pub, wooden floors, walls, tables, a sickening glaze, nothing for veggios except roast without the meat, roast parsnip, roast potatoes and a side of chips. A plate full of white people eating white trivia, hard to digest. They've come here to win. They're in the wrong place. What's a good one to do? How to run a car on the dole. Try to do it legally. Really try. There are other ways, and you'll learn every one of these. For now, enjoy the feeling of the well-worn driver's seat and the rem as you flex the accelerator pedal at the lights. In the evening, after dinner, sit on the couch with your pants button undone. Think about your car out there. Look at it through the drapes, the beast. It seems possible now to make up some of the distance you've lost.
Hell, it seems that you're on the edge of omnipresence. Everywhere and anywhere seems a viable destination. You scan an old Melways and find excuses for a long drive. Ringwood? It's not so far. There's a computer chair on Gumtree. Fancy taking a trip? That's as far as I got on that one. But they're all just exercises. 1 minute, all right? I can do that.
30 seconds.
Is it 30 seconds? I'm done. Thank you.
Lillian, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you doing a follow one?
No.
Have you got something new?
Something new.
Ooh, come on.
I'm going to start. Okay, this is a short story called The Prince Who Would Not Grow. Very funny. Once upon a time there lived a queen whose husband was often away touring his kingdom and meeting with ambassadors from neighbouring countries. Being lonely, the queen lavished all of her love and attention on their only child, a boy. She was so besotted with him that she dismissed the royal nanny, not wanting to share her son with anyone. As time passed, the little boy was no longer a baby, but he remained very short. Since the queen would neither invite playmates into the castle nor permit her son to go outside the castle walls, there were no other children with whom the queen could compare her son's height. So she did not notice that he was scarcely growing at all. Indeed, at the age of 6, he was still no higher than her knee. However, her counsellors and servants took note of this fact as they had children of their own, and they worried about the young prince. One day the Queen's chief counsellor came to her and said, "Your Majesty, I beg your forgiveness for being so bold, but surely it is now time for His young Highness to have a governess. He is fully 6 years of age, and in the villages most children of his age are now attending school." At this suggestion a frown came to rest upon the Queen's brow, but she agreed that a tutor of some sort ought to be engaged for her son, and so a notice was posted in the village. Almost immediately a woman appeared on the doorstep, and as her references were good, she was awarded the position. The following morning lessons began for the young prince, whose name was Edward. To begin with, the governess was shocked by the tiny stature of her young pupil, but she said nothing, not wishing to offend. The boy was bright enough, although stubborn, for he'd had his own way in everything up until now. To each instruction the governess gave him, he scowled and said, "No." The governess was skillful at her job, and she managed to outsmart the boy by tricking him into doing most of the required lessons, but it was not satisfactory, and after a time she was tired of the effort and incessant arguing, and she handed in her notice. The second tutor was a gruff old scholar who insisted on conducting each lesson with the prince standing rigidly before him. He lasted only a day. The third tutor was a wonderful storyteller who kept the young prince entranced for hours with tales of history and fantasy, but whenever the tutor attempted to teach Edward the formal skills of reading and writing or numbers, the boy stamped his foot and walked away. In despair, the Queen decided that she would teach her young son herself. At first, Edward was delighted. Having disposed of 3 instructors, he felt confident that he would never have to study anything that did not appeal to him. But when his mother began to lose patience with him and pursue him with books from morning till night, the situation quickly worsened. The young prince took to hiding, playing tricks on the servants and then calling insults that he had overheard them using. He even turned his tongue against his mother, who began to avoid her own staff in her shame. One day, a messenger from the king galloped into the castle courtyard. Watching from his hiding place in the apple tree, the little prince felt envious of this strapping young man whose dusty boots were evidence of his adventuring in faraway places. The messenger gave orders for his horse to be watered and rubbed down, and another horse to be made ready for his return journey, and he strode away into the castle. Edward watched from his position in the tree, and when the fresh horse had been saddled and harnessed, Edward crept towards it and climbed onto its back. Still being exceedingly small, the boy was able to wrap himself in the blanket that lay rolled on the horse's back, where he lay silently and in great excitement. Finally, the messenger returned and leapt into the saddle. He walked the horse out of the castle grounds and began to canter down the road. Now the journey began to be most uncomfortable for Edward, but he bore it quietly. So great was his delight at being out in the world. He could see nothing. The blanket scratched his face. The pounding hooves of the horse jolted and jarred him, but he clung there, smiling. After some time, the messenger arrived at an inn where he planned to stop for the night. He slid off his horse and lifted his baggage roll off its back, and it was then that he realised the weight of his blanket. He set it on the ground and unrolled it, and great was his surprise when he found a child therein. Upon closer inspection, he realised that the child was none other than the young prince. and the messenger was most respectfully irritated, as he must now delay his journey and return to the castle with the young stowaway. In the meantime, the castle was in an uproar as everyone searched for the prince, who had never remained hidden for so long. Looking for someone as small and nimble as Edward made the search long and arduous, for there were many places such a tiny boy could hide. Indeed, the castle staff were not in a hurry to find him at all, having a very low opinion of their young prince. The queen, who might have been distraught by his disappearance, was grim. She was exhausted by his pranks. She remained alone in her rooms, waiting to hear of his discovery, her face stony. It was nearly midnight when the messenger arrived at the castle gate. He blew his bugle and waited impatiently for the gates to be opened. He had found the prince to be rude and ill-mannered and was looking forward to being relieved of this burden. The castle servants were startled when Edward was delivered to them by the king's messenger, and they hustled him quickly to his mother, who coldly ordered him to his room. As her son was leaving her chambers, the queen realised with some surprise that the boy appeared to have grown. She pondered this discovery. I will continue next time. Okay, I'll continue next time.
Marcello. Marcello has some poetry.
At least I get a clap before. By the way, I was born, as most of you know, on a tiny island. My dream has always been to go back to an island. So I belong to a group that we're trying to buy an island. So last week I got a letter from Aberdeen. There is an island off the coast of Scotland called Little Ross Island. It's got a few buildings and a lighthouse. The lighthouse is still working, but it's automatic. The other buildings are not, so that my friend is going in the next couple of days to have a look at it. So,
Sounds cold.
but it is very cold. Well, I've been in Canada. But that brings me to, because I've been writing this series of poems as a female, like a journey, love, erotic journey, and mostly will be illustrated by my life drawings. So my wife is not happy about it. But she's not writing it. Okay. So in the backyard near midnight, she unties a bathrobe. Particles of moonlight drench her face, trickle between her breasts, converge in her groin and run down her thighs. Cool quicksilver pooling between her toes. The porcelain moon cracks. She drops the bathrobe and falls to her knees. This is a bit different. In the rain, I saw a photo, actually a poster, of this couple dancing in front of a red bus in London. Actually, my daughter-in-law's got it very well, so I came up with this. Alone in London, walking in the rain, among flowing ranks of strangers, I encounter a tall man. His hair thick and black, his coat grey flannel. As we pass each other, our eyes hold for a moment. We continue in different directions, but not indifferent. 20 years later, why do I see his face walking in the rain? Oh. This is inspired by a place, again in one of the islands where I come from. Through tall grass to the world's edge, I walk where coastline careens to a restive sea below. The volcano that hulk fuming against a torch-red sundown. I climb its black back, my feet trembling on the cone of tuff and cinder, the smoke curling from the earthen fissures. And from the volcano's peak, javelins of flame pierce the sable sky, firing smoky clouds fluorescent orange.
Very nice.
I live there, 3 kilometers from it. I lay my body on the rocky soil, transfixed by the luminous heavens, when a wayward star plummets past me, blazing a blue-white trail to the sea. Like a brass key cut for a steel lock, he approaches me, hazel eyes velvet, horse-like nostrils flared. He strokes my shoulder with the small, insistent breaths. My breasts swell, their flesh electric. Blood unleashes. Charged particles that circuit from him through me and back through him. He changes to my body, drawing inward, clenching, quivering, opening, till deep in the recess of my core, a rusty latch unlocks. Stay here with me, all night, here, on the edge of the world. This little poem, it's written on a little house, just where that other event took place. It's a whole series of events that this woman experienced. It's like a erotic journey. So I've been busy drawing so I can have the right poem, the right words for it. Under twisted olive branches, we took shelter from sudden rain, while high above us on the mountainside, the small white house stood empty. Deep silence waits there now in the rush of the wind, whistling through to round windows and arched signal door. They actually built this for the road travellers that want to go to the mountains. If the weather's not ideal, that can stay there and then. So it has got these 2 little round windows and a little blue door.
Yeah.
Okay, as you all know, we launched Les's book Pride a little while back, and he's about to launch his next book, Just Another Week in Suburbia. And Les is going to read from this today. Yay! Tonight, I should say. And this is the door prize for tonight. Now the launch will be Saturday, the 2nd of September at 10 a.m. at Federation Square. What's the bar called, Les?
Via Deluxe.
Via Deluxe.
Yeah.
Beer Deluxe. It's inside, you know where the atrium is in Federation Square. So Les, come on down. Come on down. Yeah. What do we do to him if he goes over 5 minutes?
Well, this is our chance for revenge. We've been waiting for this.
Time there.
No, but I want to do a live.
Oh, okay. So I'm actually going to read from the door prize. Hopefully I don't crease it too severely.
I'm actually doing a live video just so if anyone's wondering what I'm doing.
We were.
Okay, so this is a reading from Just Another Week in Suburbia. It's a story about a man who questions his place in his life and begins to question his wife's fidelity. So this is from chapter 1. Wallace's yapping wakes me up just as I'm nodding off. I flip onto my side, bury my face in Jane's hair, hoping he shuts up. He doesn't. I sit up, sweat cools on my brow and I wipe it away with my wrist. Damn belated summer has been unrelenting. The clock radio on Jane's bedside table glows with a line with its digital numbers. 12:09 a.m. It feels later. I swivel out of bed, lock my feet into my slippers, and walk over to the window in my underwear, hoping I'll be able to shh Wallace from up here. Unfortunately, he sounds like he's next door, which isn't good because my neighbour Vick Booth hates him with an unholy passion. Vick must have been bitten as a kid to hate Wallace so much. I pull back our curtains and peek out. A street already cuts through the paddocks that unfold beyond our backyard. Street lights so bright they must use the bowls from lighthouses. It's only a matter of time before new houses like our own go up. But that's all the suburb of Meadow is, uniformity. There was no sign of Wallace in the booth yard. The beach table with the umbrella and banana lounges are blots of shadows while light glimmers off the surface of the pool. No sign of Wallace. Sometimes I worry he'll fall in the pool and drown. Instead of commiserating, Vick would probably charge us for the cleaning. I grabbed my bathrobe from the door, stumbled from the bedroom and turned on the light in the landing. The first thing that greets me is the picture hanging at the top of the stairs of Jane and me on our wedding day. Jane, in a flowing dress, her hair elaborately braided, smiles at me like she's never known a harried thought in her life. I look mildly shocked, as if the photographer caught me unawares. An expression present in each of the 6 anniversary photos that chaperone me as I head downstairs. This was Jane's idea, to mark our coupling as we grew older. We're getting a 7th photo on Sunday morning, following a fancy dinner in a hotel room at the Sheraton in the city on Saturday night. My slippers suction onto the floorboards as I reach the front door. I unlock it, open it quietly. The night's balminess strikes me. The heat simmered in the air and made it sticky. It's meant to be hotter this week. The street itself is quiet, bar for the echoes of Wallace's excitement. The houses are silhouettes, trees in front of them small and still, silent tributes to the idealism of everyday middle-class suburbia. Everybody's bins are out. I've forgotten ours. I go outside, grab the bins from the side of the house and wheel them to the nature strip while hissing for Wallace. The booths live to our left. Wallace has the run of our backyard and has his own doggy door. The backyard is meant to be contained, but there are pockets where he burrows under the fence. The booths don't have a side gate like we do, so Wallace is free to explore their property, although he's been told repeatedly he shouldn't. No fence separates our front yard. Our garages and driveways are mashed together. My Fiesta's parked on a nature strip. Our two-car garage is home to Jane's VW Beetle and 7 years of crap we've accumulated. There's not much room for anything else. Wallace, I say. His yapping stops. I can imagine him cocking his head. Wallace! I hope he'll appear from somewhere else, but he comes sprinting from around the booth's yard and bounds across their yard. He's probably been chasing Silver, Vick's stupid cat. I open the security door and he struts in, a ball of white fluff with a black spot on his back, an irrepressible wire-haired fox terrier. We got him after our efforts to have a baby didn't work out. Not that he appreciates that. Shh! I follow him unlocking the security doors and front doors. Wallace peers at me as if to say, "What?" His little tail circles like a propeller, and his nose is dirty, so he must have burrowed under the fence. I'm wide awake now, so instead of returning to bed, I go into the study and turn on the light. Stumble on something, Jane's handbag. When she's not forgetting it at work or in the car, she leaves it just inside the study door so she can scoop it up on the way out. Everything is spilled out. This isn't our first tangle. I'll leave the clean up for later and sit on my recliner. My sketch pad and pencils rest on my desk. I take my sketch pad onto my lap as Wallace tramps in, sniffs at the contents of Jane's bag, looks at me, then hops onto the couch. He has a basket in the laundry but has made the couch cushion his home. He circles on the spot and flops down and stares at me, as if reproaching me for interrupting his fun. I flick through my pad, lots of little sketches of fruit, furniture, a couple of Wallace. Jane says they're okay, but wives are meant to say stuff like that. Beth, the art teacher at school I teach, says they're good. Of course, she could be hearing me since she's also a friend. I used to draw lots. There wasn't much time once Jane and I got married. I've just taken it back up, and my efforts don't enthuse me. I wish there was an inspiring landscape outside my window, waves crashing upon a precipice, maybe. But our yard's a big block of grass rimmed by a coal stream wall. The big stones fit neatly together. Recently, I've taken a sledgehammer to it because I want to put up something new, like everybody's done in the neighbourhood. But there's a gulf between the theory and the practice. And I think I'll stop there in about 5 minutes. Which is before I got to the big bit, sorry. Company launch.
You better start here.
We'll do that in a minute, at the end. Thanks, Les. Did Oscar think he was being called before?
Yes.
Used to the tone.
Shell. Shell is going to read a short story called 22.
Hello, I'm Shell. My thing is true stories. Tonight I'll read the second part of Tim Dunlop's short story 22, which is about his ex-girlfriend Brigitte. Last month we learned that they were in a relationship while he was in Perth working as a copywriter at a radio station. Brigitte was beautiful, 22, brunette, but troubled. She had a drinking problem as she lost her brother about a year earlier in a motorcycle accident. And this is where I left off last month. She said that she was feeling suicidal, and this is where we left off last time. In my gut, I was sure that Brigitte wouldn't do such a thing, but I had to make sure. So he went over. Bridge, I care about you. I'll always be there for you, but you have to stop drinking. If you will, I will, I promised. The talk helped, maybe because it was more than a talk. We'd made a pact. Then, as two heavy drinkers, we did the only thing we could do that night. Got drunk and passed out. A week rolled by, life returned to its normal routine, and Sunday arrived again. I was excited. I was headed for Brigitte's place, where her parents were throwing a family barbecue and everyone was invited. It was 10:30 in the morning and I was driving, heading 20 minutes down the Swan River, when my phone rang. It was Brigitte. I could tell straight away that she was drunk. "Are you coming over?" she asked a bit too loudly. "On my way," I replied. "Great," she said. "No, not great. We had a deal. You would stay sober till I got there." I pulled the car over and sat to think. A tug of war went on in my head. Brigitte had broken our pact, and after only 7 days. The relationship had already taken its toll. At what point do I make a stand? I asked myself. "Are you still there?" she yelled. "I'm not doing this. We had a deal. I'm not coming over to babysit you." And with that, I hung up the phone and turned the car around. The phone rang again. I didn't answer. I was furious. The phone rang another 20 times. She was persistent. But the phone rang again, and rang, and rang. After the 34th time I answered it, "Stop fucking ringing me!" I hung up. Brigitte didn't ring again. That night, I woke up from a very deep sleep, sat bolt upright in my bed, and glanced at the clock radio. 4:54 a.m. That's odd, I thought, but dismissed it and rolled back into slumber. The next day, Brigitte's friend Christian called while I was driving to work. "She did it," he said. "Did what?" I asked. There was silence. I began to pull over. I couldn't hear it before, but now I could detect his sniffling. She killed herself. The police said she passed away at approximately 5 a.m, Christian advised. No, it was 4:54 a.m, I told him, then I hung up. The air left my body like an erupting volcano full of unexpelled hurt, and I let out an almighty scream. It felt like a train drove through my soul and smashed the life out of me. Tears rolled uncontrollably down my face as I sank into silence. I couldn't move, could barely breathe. I went into shock. I became full of rage and I punched the car roof. But my anger soon turned to complete sadness as my thoughts shifted to what her parents must be going through right now. First their son, now their daughter, both dead at 22. I continued copywriting at the radio station, taking flowers to Brigitte's grave often, but after 18 months it was time to go. I was moving back to Melbourne. Before I left, I visited Brigitte's grave one last time, this time taking flowers and a bottle of bourbon to share. I cracked the cap of the bourbon bottle, took a swig and poured the rest on her grave. I reckon she appreciated the gesture, because as I stood staring at her headstone, in my mind I heard one of her favourite songs, The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics. One verse played over in my mind. It's too late when we die, so don't yield to the fortunes you sometimes see as fate. you may have a new perspective on a different day. And if you don't give up and don't give in, you may just be okay. It was too late for Brigitte, but maybe the lyrics were her way of saying that there was still hope for me.
So, lucky last, Nandita. Noni is going to read a poem called My Beautiful Broken Mind.
Most of you don't know me, but I think Blaise and Les knows me very well, and it wouldn't have been possible for me to publish this book if I hadn't gone through therapies. Just to give you a backstory about myself, I had a head injury, acquired brain injury, going back in 2011, and I had to go back into rehab last year. And I was diagnosed with a slight disability of cognitive issues, and I just finished my therapies last month. Last month, yes. And so I've written a poem in regards to that, and that was published as a story. Royal Melbourne Hospital did a story on me, and this is the poem that I've written. And through this poem, my speech therapist, my psychologist, they helped me to finish minorizing. So I battled mental health, I battled a lot of other issues, which makes a very interesting story about myself. But let's not go there. And I'll just read this for you, which is called My Beautiful Broken Mind. And if it's okay, yeah. Let's go through this. My beautiful broken mind. My beautiful broken mind, often we talked with each other where we were, where are we now? Where are we heading? What happened to us when we couldn't speak to me anymore? The questioning, the reasoning just became too numb to reason with anymore. We both let each other on my own since the day of the fall. Bruised, broken, shattered, we both lived a life of denial, pretending, well, both are just doing fine. Then you go whisper a taunt of disgrace that was more hurtful, an actual fall from grace. We both laughed at each other, you almost humiliated me with my memory, whereas I continued to fight with my demons and you did nothing. You forgot to sympathize with me, pushing me to my most loneliest point of me. I still had to live with me, you know, with you, with the world around us. When did you stop loving me, my mind? Was it the day I stopped living within me? Or was it the day you pushed me to a dark corner? The warmth of darkness was so comforting that I would cringe if shadows would start creeping within. I would doubt you, hate you for that. You pushed me to laugh, pretending me to understand the world around me. How I despised you. Then for cheating me from me, but then you go, slowly mocking at me, laughing at me, feeling sorry for me. You slowly start introducing me to light. One by one, the clouds of doubt that you helped me build in me, slowly they disappear into you, my beautiful broken mind. A relationship, just give me 1 second. We have come a long way since the day we both reincarnated from the fall, since the beginning of the end of a relationship, since the day I ran my fingers on my father's ashes, since the day a handful of people lay in denial of you and me, since the day I stopped believing you in me, since the day I stopped living a life of others, since the day everyone was looking through my abnormal as normal, since the day ability became a disability, since the day I stopped writing a page to heal you in me. My beautiful broken mind, how can I part with you? I'm a part of you living in me, defying odds, giving clarity. I have surrendered to you and you to me, becoming a participant on each other's change. and embracing you to me and me to you. You are me, my beautiful, precious, broken mind. Thank you. Together. Sorry, I couldn't see.
Anyone have any announcements or anything they want to tell us? Liz, can I have the tickets, please? I'm going to do, if you want to take out your raffle tickets, yet to win the book. Les, sorry?
Cheryl hasn't got a ticket.
I gave you one. Did you? No. Let me give her a ticket.
It's traditional for the person sitting next to me to win the raffle.
Is it?
Yes.
Can I come show this
It's okay, don't worry.
So don't forget, there are still copies of Pride for sale, published by Busybird Publishing. This is not published by us. Still going to support it, but still not Busybird Publishing. Still good to read though, I have read it.
There was just, sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
There was just one thing, Panton Hill, you mentioned Panton Hill. There was just one thing out of Panton Hill. There's a lectern at the church out there, and had Sarah Riley. I go to the church at Panton Hill, the Anglican church. Sarah Riley was a little nameplate, and we didn't know much about her until an author rang up the minister out there and said, have you got Sarah Riley was a parishioner here in 1917. I'm writing a book about the topic, and so with further investigation we found that Sarah Riley was the fiancée of Banjo Patterson for 8 or 9 years, and she introduced Banjo to her girlfriend by the name of McPherson, Christine McPherson in Queensland, and then she was playing the tune, etc., and which was Waltzing Matilda, and then he had a bit of an affair, I think.
You ran off with a friend?
Yeah, but didn't marry either of them. But anyway, she came back and lived at Panton Hill, the first one, Sarah Riley, so that's a bit of a connection with the local area.
Yeah.
Sorry, that took a little time to tell you about.
That's okay, it's a good little story.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready? Oh, did you get a ticket?
No.
You want one?
No, it's okay. I've got the book.
You've got the book already? No. Okay. Green, A76. Joan got it?
It's the ticket next to mine.
Is yours 75?
Yeah.
78! Joan won it. So Joan, if you'd like it signed by Les, just go and ask him. You go and ask him.
They're worth a fortune.
Okay, thanks everyone for coming tonight.
Thanks very much.
Okay? Thank you. We'll hang around, have something to eat, drink, whatever you like, and hope to see you again next month. Okay? See ya.
In 1960, Irish that worked in the corner of Keene and Australia Mountains. Yeah. Up there, Essendon.